It's a UFO. No, it's just my superior hammock. And I'm going to come back to these baffles. I really love how they can snap around. I think with any hammock you want to have a way to kind of secure it if you walk away from it for a bit. And of course they have some accessories like a bottom quilt cover and a bug net and a cocoon and some other things that kind of snap in. It's a beautiful, get out of the light here. It's a beautiful looking hammock. It is rated at 30 Fahrenheit to my knowledge. They call this the E-Lite 30 Fahrenheit model. So it's supposed to have thinner fabric that's pretty strong for its thickness. Basically your closest to backpacking type of version. Now what I got on this, I had to return into Granny's house at about 4 a.m. and it did get to about 24.5 degrees Fahrenheit. I was using this, again, this is a beautiful work of art of a hammock. I was like, gray? I took a deal on a gray one because it was a closeout. Somewhere there's a zipper that's a little too short, but matches my quilt, my sleeping bag real nice. I noticed, I did notice, you know, how between you got these seams, and I believe something, maybe my hammock gear in the colder Superiors advertised some sort of cross baffling. I noticed a little coldness. I got in this, it was 29.5 degrees Fahrenheit. 4 a.m. came, it was 24.5 Fahrenheit. And I was relatively chilly. Now, I'm a little bit of a cold sleeper, or whatever you want to say. I'm just saying, the other thing on these Superiors, and this is the same as my 0 Fahrenheit Superior, when your feet get diagonal and kick this zipper line out, you do get some cold spots, because you can see it's not insulated is what I'm saying. So, you know, it continued the thing of like what Shug and people do. I have a little flexible foam pad from Mountain Laurel Designs, just multi-use, and I shove it in my foot box. The 11-foot solved by 10-foot 0 Fahrenheit E-Lite, my feet would actually kind of slide off to the side a bit, and my heels would be kind of laying on this thin strip and getting a cold spot. And it's a 0 Fahrenheit, so it might be, you know, very far below freezing. That's a little more of a serious problem. You know, 30 degrees, you don't really notice it. It gets down into the 20s and you start noticing it. This does zip to a cocoon. I really like that about the newer models of Superior hammocks. He said, even though it had the flawed zipper, somewhere there's a flaw with it. You can look for deals, but you get them on closeouts, you know, so you can't return them. You can't be like, well, this is a little cold for me, and I think I want to go to a 15. No, you got what you got. You buy it, you buy it. And I know it's got a good product line and stuff. Pretty, I get a picture of it. But I'm just going the ins and outs. Like any of these hammocks, you hang the head a little lower than the feet. It's got a little adjustability in the ridge, which is good. I'll probably take some of that out. And as far as my winter kit, I will continue to use my pad. Like, you can take a little of the slack out of the hammock and you can use your pad in there, and that'll get you down a little more. And especially if you have kind of a bad back like me, or you want to go to the ground or lay in your buddy's apartment when you get to Green Bay or whatever, you got a pad that you can get out. But from a safety standpoint, I could have unrolled my pad last night. It's just in my backpack, and put it in here, and I could have got quite a bit warmer because my top layer wasn't failing out on me quite yet, especially with all this bottom blocking the wind. And it was not windy. It was a perfect starry night. So I guess I had expected that, I don't know, this might start getting uncomfortable at about no, 21 or 20. They said Shug had, but Shug does stuff. Shug's this other hammock character on YouTube and stuff. You know, he a lot of times puts a piece of foam in his foot box and stuff. That's one of his classic things. So the thing about hammocks is they are, like people say, a little temperamental. You don't get the predictability of going to the ground with a tent. But you also don't have to crawl around the mud and the slush, and you get to be right out where the birds and animals are, just staring at the stars. It's just a kind of a thing of what you like. You can see it's really well constructed. I just happen to have these out here, but they have their own suspension. You can go through Hammock 101 and figure out what this is a good system with these slotted lines, because you can kind of pick. You get an ultralight end at the end, and I've just got button links, and you do what you want there, but you can. I got hundreds of setups on the internet. Probably we'll look at some videos, but you know, this worked well. Their storage bag like this, I just put some plastic toggles because I have them, and they give you some nice little micro carabiners, but they were too valuable to me, so I threw those. Hey, you got something? I don't know. Anyway, yeah, that was 24.5 Fahrenheit. I felt it got, I guess that's the thinner fabric. It feels thin, because it had me thinking at first, I was like, well, did they get it confused with a 45 hammock? Because the weight, this weighs in at 1 pound 15 ounces. That's exactly what the spec weight of the 45 Fahrenheit standard version comes to. But you know, it's probably just a coincidence. This is actually their E-Lite model, you know, supposedly with more down in it. So, but it's definitely noticeable. I have the 0 Fahrenheit, and these baffles are really popping out. And one thing I thought on the 0 Fahrenheit, that you got the differential baffles. I don't know, I visited Superior Gear in like 2018 or so, maybe even before then, and Danny was like, yeah, this temperature we start, you know, basically wrap over the baffles so you almost have dual chambers. I don't know if it's 15 Fahrenheit or 0 or at what point that occurs. I'll have to look at the 0 Fahrenheit one I have and see. But if you're going into the real cold, I suggest that, or making sure your quilt, if you're just laying on the hammock like a lot of people do, no pad or anything, I inflate my pad. It gives it, you know, but these are made to no fuss. You know, you're paying a good amount of money, you know, on a closeout. I mean, I think this was nearly right around $300 on a flawed closeout, no returns deal. You know, you're talking an E-Lite version, you're getting up near $400 for this hammock to buy it. So hopefully with these videos, you know, if other people are buying it, they don't, you know, I can kind of help convince them what to buy. 10-foot, 11-foot hammock, I do lay a little bit flatter in this 11-foot. I'm 5 feet 11 on a good day, maybe 5'10" with my shoes off, compressed from walking all day. I don't know what I am, but 5'10 and a half, we'll call it. And I sleep in either one of them, but minus my pad, definitely the 11-footer. As far as comparable lays, my Warbonnet Blackbird XLC ever so slightly nudges this out on just laying on the hammock like this. Something about it, when you get diagonal, you just don't get quite as much of this pulling up. Now it pulls up in the perfect place with this 11-footer. Gets right underneath exactly where it needs to be, and I'm pretty comfortable. But on my 10-footer, it isn't. I have to work a little bit harder to get comfortable, and like I say, my foot box slides off it a little more. And now you're talking about $300 things, you know? So you can pop yourself real good and be, you know, if you're a perfectionist like me, the big point is these really get you warm, you know, for a hammock. You know, nothing's going to be perfect. We could talk about it all day. These hoods spread the fabric just a little better than the other one I have. So, but you still, in my opinion, if you're nifty, You could do a knotty mod, where that means you put a little elastic cord there that really bumps up the insulation at the foot or shoulders. So, you know, Jared from Simply Light can do that with hammocks. Then you could get a bottom quilt that wraps way up over your feet, but then you'd have all the elastic lines and stuff of securing the... It's all a big balance back and forth. I'll start leaving people alone. By the way, I slept in it with this. I've got a outdoor research puffy. I've got a furry thing, Patagonia thing under that, and I had wool long johns. I did take off my snow pants, so it's not like I was straight laying this in the nude or something. I mean, I feel like I'm pretty adequately rating it to what you'd be wearing in the winter. You'd kick off your snow pants, they'd be full of ice, and you know, hop in your long johns. So, you know, like I said, great, beautiful, beautiful hammock. I think I would desire it to maybe go a little... I mean, if I do what I knew now, I'd probably opt for the 15 Fahrenheit rather than the 30, but it is what it is. I'd take a little more down in those baffles. I even starting about thinking back in under quilts. My puff hole comes way up over the hammock, nice, where my feet hang off. It has snaps so I can close it. I start rethinking things, but I can't nearly touch the weight and simplicity of this. The Grand Trunk I tested, the Evolution, was really nice. It did compete with this as far as going down cold. It was about a pound heavier, you know, if you add in the sleeping bag and everything. But it was very simple. If it wasn't for the bad seam, you see Superior Gear, they figured that out. They have at least 2 or 3 layers. I think it's maybe 3 layers that, you know, you hang on that help support you so your quilt is not sewn through the hammock. So there you go.